I'm Terry Delavecchia, and this is Tom Chaplin. We are your coaches and host and hostess for this part of our job workshop series. And we're going to go over job dissatisfaction. Part one, I'm ready for change. This is actually a two-part duo thing, and the other one's going to be out there shortly if it's not out there already. So let's start and figure out how you want to make changes to your career.
And a good place to start, I think, is always, where are you when, well, where are most people when they come into coaching for because of a career related issue? A lot of people are fed up with their jobs. They, you're at this point where you feel like, sometimes if it's gone way longer than it should have before you addressed it, you may feel like you hate your job, and now it's time for a change.
Yeah, I stayed in my role at my last job before I became a coach, probably 9 months longer than I should have. I didn't know what I wanted to do next. I knew that I needed to leave because our values were changing between mine and the organization. And that happens to lots of people. I mean, you may be unhappy at your job for any number of reasons. Organization change, your values change, whatever. So in the teaser, we left off with identifying some things that actually made your current job seem like hell on earth. And maybe that's a stretch, but if you're here, you probably don't want to stay there any longer. So now we want to give you an understanding of what job satisfaction means and whether or not it's actually attainable. Just so you know, it is, and we're going to address those concerns now.
Yeah, and usually your dissatisfaction can really be identified or categorized, broken down into three different categories. People usually leave their job, or the job doesn't work out, for three basic reasons. We've added a little more here because I think there some of the reasons that people typically have are important, and so we want to think about them in a little more detail. So, but normally it either has something to do with people leave because they're not paid enough, they're not paid what they feel they're worth. There's a mismatch with the company somehow. It's not a cultural fit, or it's not a job fit. You're doing a job but you're not utilizing the skills that you really want to be utilizing. So it's just not a fit. And when one of those things are off, it can really, disrupt your satisfaction, how you feel about the job. So, when we look at all the reasons we have here, the work I do is rewarding, important, and makes a difference. We all want to feel that way. Now, we all want to feel like no matter what we're doing, that we're making a difference, that we're actually making an impact.
Correct.
And of course, when you make an impact, you want that to be recognized by your employer. You want to be in a supportive work environment that values you. It's like it's a relationship. And when you feel like you're putting all this energy out there and you care. I think that's a big part of it, is just how you care about your job. You want the employer to care too.
Right. You want them to care about you too. It's a two-way street. Absolutely.
Right. And and also your values, they need to be aligned with your work. They have to be. And we all have, I don't want to go into a whole lot of detail on this because this is a whole PowerPoint in itself, but our values really kind of light the path for us, at how we want to move forward. And there's always like core values that are, the primary values, like just, 2 or 3 that are really running the show.
It's who you are. It's your belief system and who you are.
Exactly. Yes. So, for example, if, this is a very simple example, but one of your values may be honesty. I mean, I think we all have that to some
Hopefully.
degree, but we may want to, but we each may define, yeah, hopefully. But we each, but we all maybe have our own little, definition of what that,
What it really means to us personally. Yes.
yeah, like, for some people it might be okay to tell a little white lie, and other people, nope, absolutely not, or it's, okay to tell a bigger lie. The definition of what a white lie is has evolved. But if you find yourself being asked to sort of compromise your integrity, your ethics, or you find yourself in that position at work, it can be very unsettling for most of us, I think.
Yes.
But we all want opportunities to learn and grow. We want to be recognized, respected, viewed as accomplished, an authority, capable to handle the challenges that come up in our job, and also leadership values my contributions. So, it's a little more detail there. We're expanding on the three that I talked about initially, but when one of these is off, it can really throw off everything for you.
Right. And for me, as I said before, I stayed about 9 months too long. I was paid really well. I mean, I had a great job. I was paid really well. I was respected by my peers and subordinates. But I had as the job grew, I had very different ideas from senior management about the value of employees, and especially the value of our international employees. I had no support for the VP to continue to grow and work with the international people. So what I realized was coaching and mentoring them was really enjoyable to me and meant a lot to me, but this is where our values were different. My integrity and my work ethic was very different from theirs. And it wasn't a priority to the VP any longer. So guess what? I left.
Yeah.
Into coaching.
Yeah.
So I can coach and mentor anytime I want.
Yeah, and I think for me it was, and when this is going back a ways, I was not paid what I was worth. I loved my job. I loved what I did. It was fun, but I wasn't being. I felt like I needed to be making a lot more money, and so I left, and I moved into a well-paying job, and where I was making a lot of money. And at that point, that was the only thing I really cared about. I was making a whole lot of money, and so you may find that, for some people, you can be making a lot of money and that's the most important thing to you. And, I've seen that a lot in IT, where people are paid really well.
And they hate their job.
Yeah, but the money
not,
makes up for it. And
yes, but they're willing to compromise. Yes.
Yes. But then you have people who are more creative or artistic, and there are a lot of positions that you're not going to be paid as well, but what you do is so important.
It's your heart. It's
yeah,
it's a fulfillment. What gives you joy to get up and go to work every day? And if you're miserable because any number of things are wrong, you don't, Sunday night comes around and you're like, and it's dreading Monday morning. That's job dissatisfaction. That's huge.
Yeah.
And how long can you keep doing that before it hits, it's a strain on your entire life, because you can't just walk out the door at work, walk in the door at home, and you leave all the ick, behind. The ick follows you. Right. It just does.
Yeah. And then the Sunday night syndrome turns into Sunday afternoon, and then Sunday morning.
And then, right. And then thank God it's Friday, but oh my God, Monday's coming in 2 days. Right.
Right. Yeah. So, it's those are signs.
Yes, they're huge signs. But people ignore them. They do ignore them because they're afraid.
Right. Yeah.
They're afraid to make the change. And that's why we're here to help you make the change.
Exactly. Exactly, to kind of help you step out of that comfort zone.
Yep.
So, do you, I think an important question to ask yourself is, do you feel like it's possible to be happy and fulfilled in your career? Because, you know, we all want to be, but do you feel like it's possible? And you know, and how you answer that is really important. Um, and you know, I think it's important to also recognize that we all can be happy. You know, it's just you know, it's finding, connecting with that inner passion or whatever is really driving you. You know, I mean, sometimes things just need to be tweaked. um,
Yes.
you know, a lot of times you know, you can, we love what we're doing. That's not the problem. We're paid well, but if we're not valued, if it's like, for example, and I think this was really, well, this is kind of important too, I think still, but a lot of times, and what I was going to say is because working remotely is
Oh,
becoming more common, but before that, you know, you go into the work environment. Some work environments are very conservative. Some are very casual, you know,
mhm.
what works for you. So, you know, my point is a lot of times, um, you know, when you don't like the environment you're working in, it's possible to just change environments and still really, you know, really enjoy what you're doing. Because that's kind of an area of confusion where I see people thinking they don't like their job, but really, you know, it's all they need to do is make, you know, kind of tweak it, fine tune it, an environment that works for you. And
Right.
and um, and then you can be happy. But anyway, I think it's important to just recognize that if you're answering this question that you don't think it's possible, that's, well, I think that's where coaching can help you to identify, you know, to help you change your answer.
And
Uh,
one of the things with like the workshop series that we have and this too, you can pause this video and think about that question.
oh, great
If you
idea.
if
Yeah.
you really believe that it's not possible to have a job you like, that you know it's so you figure it's, you know, find the best of the evils, that's a very negative way to look at it. And sometimes it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, if you believe that you can find a job that you will be fulfilled and passionate, enthusiastic about, you're more inclined to find a job that you will be fulfilled and passionate and enthusiastic about. It's the nature of the
Totally.
beast. But we'll
Totally.
get into some more of that later. But it is possible to be happy and fulfilled in your career. Absolutely.
Right.
And, you know, many times you take a job right out of school, it's just somebody offers it to you, you're afraid you're not going to find one, you take the job, 6 months in, you're thinking, what was I thinking? You know,
Right.
why did I do this? Just because they were paying me money. This had nothing to do with my degree, nothing to do with anything I liked, but it was a job and I have, you know, I could rent an apartment with 3 other buddies or whatever.
Right.
It's amazing how many people take a job just because. What we're saying is there are other ways to do that. And there are other tools in your toolbox. There are other ways, you know, to look at your strengths and your skills and to connect with who you are.
Absolutely. Well said. So the question is, I mean, I think, you know, all this boils down to the fact that, you know, a lot of times when you're in this position, you know, you're in this, you're immersed in your work environment for so, you know, for so many hours during the week. It can, you know, it can sometimes be draining when you're not happy. And to make any kind of a change can seem overwhelming. But really, and this is one of the things that I'd like to just, you know, what we both like to just, you know, emphasize at this point. I mean, how many decisions are needed in order to look for a new job? Carrie?
Just one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's only one, you know, it's like clear out all that other clutter and
Yep.
just make the decision that the time is now. And
Yeah, you either want to do it or you don't.
yeah, you may not know what the next step is. And, you know, chances are you probably won't, but, you know, maybe it's calling a career coach, maybe it's just, you know, reconnecting, reactivating your network. But, you know, just making that decision, you have, that's the first step.
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
you have the control. It is all up to you and no one else. And no one can tell you differently. I mean, I've had people that one of my first jobs, my first real job, I'm not counting McDonald's, I was like 16. That doesn't count. When I came home smelling like French fries and never wanted to eat them again. And that lasted like 6 months. But anyway, but a real job where somebody or a friend or your significant others just doesn't think the job's right for you. It's not their decision.
right.
If you like what you're doing and somebody's badgering you to change, it's not their decision. If you don't like what you're doing and somebody's badgering you to change, it's still not their decision.
Right.
You have to decide to do what you're going to do when you're ready to do it. You are in control, and it's your job and yours alone to accept the situation or to change the situation. And it's your decision to change a career if you want to change a career or change your role or change your job or change companies. But it is only your decision. And the only decision that's needed is yours to decide, do I stay or do I go? That's it.
Yeah, because you're the one who's going to be doing the work.
Yep.
So, you know, it doesn't make sense that somebody else would,
Makes the decision. No,
yeah,
it
would
doesn't.
have some sort of input into that. I mean, maybe money or something, but you know, that's always a consideration for a family. But yeah, I
Sure.
mean, it's your decision, 100%. So,
This is Tom's favorite thing. And I love it too. And he's really good at explaining this. So go
it's all
ahead.
the money in there, but
Yeah.
you know, it's the and I've talked about this before a little bit in another video, but it's your briefcase. And I like the money being or this briefcase full of money because it shows what you're worth, what your skills and your experience. It's a good metaphor for what you're worth. And this, so when you like the first day of your job, let's say you walk into your job, you carry your briefcase, you unpack it. And what are you unpacking? You're unpacking, this is a metaphor, remember, it's not the real thing. You're unpacking your skills, you're unpacking your experience, you're unpacking all the things that you've learned, that your education, all the things that are important for this job. And
It's all the things they hired you for.
exactly. So it should be a very happy day. You know, you're clearing out your briefcase, pulling out all the things that you're going to need. And then the last day of your job, you start putting all those things back in and plus some, you know, plus the things, the new things, the new skills you've acquired, the new, you know, the things you've learned. And this could be things like, I mean, you know, who knows? There are a lot of soft skills. We're not just looking at hard skills. Like,
Right. Well, change the slide so they can see the next piece.
yeah, lots of soft skills. Like, you know, being able to, I don't know, communicate or, you know, being able to resolve problems with within the workplace. You know,
It could be your interpersonal skills. It could be
yeah,
exactly like maybe in this role you were the expert customer service representative. So you learned how to de-escalate situations. That's a huge skill to have in any business.
absolutely. And a lot of times we take those skills for granted.
Yes.
You know, a client I'm working with right now, one of the homework assignments was to make a list of all skills, experience, you know, just that kind of thing. And what was interesting was in a conversation, I think her most dominant skill she took for granted and wasn't even on the list. And, and it was just this kind of, I would call it more of a talent. It's something that comes naturally to her to be able to walk into any kind of environment and be able to organize it, see exactly what needs to be done. And it was just something that she almost sees as frustrating because she can't stand disorganization.
So it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah. So, but it's like, this is a strength. My God,
Yeah.
not everybody wants to do that. I certainly don't. I want somebody to do it for me. But so your briefcase is, and I think this is a good exercise to ask yourself, what is in your briefcase? And to really think about it.
So this is another good place to pause a video, take out a pen and paper, and start thinking about that.
Yeah. And don't just, take 5 minutes to make this list. Let it, give yourself
Let it percolate.
Give yourself some quality time, some quiet quality time to really think about it, because and let the answers come to you over, maybe a few days.
Right.
But, it should be the skills you've developed, professional experience, values, education, life experience.
And it's not just everything on your resume. So when you look at your education, so let's say you started the list, you pause the video, you start the list, and write down some of the things that come to your mind right away. And you're not just going to look at your resume and start writing that stuff down because it's already on your resume. It's the things that aren't on your resume. The things that you really don't think about as much that maybe belong on it, or that you would use in an interview or talk about during something else. But start the list now. And as Tom said, then put it aside and come back to it. Come back to it later today or tomorrow or the next day, or just put it aside and come back to it every once in a while until you think that, maybe this is a pretty good list and it's kind of complete for me. And it never will be complete, but it's something that's green. It's always growing. It's always changing because you're not stagnant.
Well, if you're like me, when I start thinking about something, I get, ideas pop into my head like, a week or two later, it's like, I want to add to the list. But work ethic and personality. I mean, there are things that are so important. And this is really the foundation of so much of what you're going to be doing going forward. You can build your success stories around this.
Yes.
Help identify the right environment, compose your questions in an interview, know what you're looking for. And one other thing I'll point out, I think, especially with work ethic and values are triggered in a very powerful way when we're in a situation we don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would also ask you to look at things you don't like about, maybe the job you're in now, or things you haven't liked in the past, because there's so much, there's just great information in there. What don't you like? I don't like the way my employer treats other employees.
And the question is, when you don't like something, why? Because the why is what makes the difference.
Yeah, but it also tells you what you do like.
Right.
So it's important for me. It may be more important for me than somebody else that I'm in a harmonious type of environment. It's what you don't like is, I almost say, look at the opposite. Mm-hmm. And to find what you do like, what you want. It's kind of a nice starting place for a lot of people.
Totally agree.
Okay, well, we're covering all kinds of good stuff here.
All right, I love this because it is the definition. I can't even talk right now. The definition of insanity, when you do the same old thinking gets the same old results, but you think it's going to be something different. Well, that doesn't ever work. So what we want you to do is change your view. Take the blinders off. because your thoughts stimulate your brain, which stimulates endorphin production, which turns into feelings, which triggers emotions, and on and on and on. And then that triggers an action. So if you shift your thinking from a negative to a positive, it changes your perspective. It changes your limiting belief of what might happen. So here's an example. If everyone still believed the world would it be flat? Probably not. So in 1519, would Magellan have attempted his voyage from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific if he thought the world was flat? The answer would be no. He did not believe what some other people believed. He took the blinders off and he was willing to take a leap of faith that it was something different. And he was right.
Right. Yeah.
He changed his thinking and he got a different result, right?
Right. He didn't follow the popular line of thinking. And that's what it takes.
It does. It does.
So, this is, I think it's important to really, at least give yourself the luxury while you're doing this work to think and dream big.
Magellan did.
Yeah, right.
Bigger than probably most of us, but it's all relative.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can play it safe and make a job change or a career change into something that feels very comfortable, or you can stretch yourself a little bit and maybe step into a role that is going to challenge you. But when you think and dream big, it really, again, it's like Magellan. It's like, yeah, that's what he did. He thought he was thinking big. It's like, yeah, no, I'm going to go prove that the world is round, not flat. So.
Yeah, when I left my job and somebody had mentioned to me, why don't you become a coach? You coach and mentored people at work all the time. You helped lots of the managers. You were really great working with people. I had never considered that. It just didn't enter my realm of possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
But once I started thinking about it and looked into it, I realized, oh my God, that might be right up my alley. Now, I was in IT for 30 years.
Right.
And my husband is more of the not doubting Thomas type. I'm jump in with both feet and instant gratification girl, and he's kind of not. So between the two of us, we equal one whole person. But his thing was, okay, I don't understand how you're going from IT to coaching. Are you going to coach IT people? And I said, I don't know. And I didn't know whether I would even like coaching. So I went to the first weekend of this coaching school and I realized I loved it and I thought I would be good at it. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So all of a sudden, my professional career aspirations changed dramatically. And I realized I needed more schooling. I need to do this. And the question is, am I going to put my money where my mouth is? Do I really believe that I can do it? And am I willing to pay for it? Which is a huge other issue to think about. And then what's preventing me from moving forward? Well, in my situation, I needed to convince my significant other that it was money worth spending and that I was going to actually continue with it. So for him, I had to write up a business plan. And then that was the end of that. and his reaction, because as I said, he thinks one way and I think another. He asked me to write a business plan before I signed all the documentation and paid the money for the coaching school. And I wrote up a one-page document because that's kind of my modus operandi. And I gave it to him and he said, okay, not really as much as I'd like, but way more than I thought you would do. And that was the end of that. And I went, and 6 years ago, I, went to coaching school and became a coach.
Yeah, it's like he challenged you.
Yeah, he wanted to know, was I serious?
And if you really want to think big, if you want to, take this risk and do something completely different, then he challenged you to prove it.
And that was fine.
Yeah,
Because
that's great.
right, because I actually had to put a little bit of detail down and think about it instead of just jumping in. And sometimes you're not an individual contributor. Sometimes there is someone else in your sphere of influence or whatever, or a significant other, where you have to have that conversation
Right.
because you're living together and you're pooling resources, and it's only fair.
Right.
But still your career and your ultimate decision.
Yeah, you're the one who's going to be doing the work.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. And I think, again, another way, also one more way to look at this is I had I mean, you sounded fearless. Like, you were just, it was very exciting. There was no fear.
It was, right.
But for a lot of people, there's fear.
Yes.
They're afraid to really think and dream big.
Correct.
You
And
know,
that's what, we all, you and I both have had clients like that. Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, I had one client who always, she not only played it safe, but she played it too safe, and would only accept roles that she felt were beneath her, because she knew that she could not fail.
Right.
She could be successful in a role where she couldn't fail. So, it was.
And then you're not learning either. You're not learning, you're not growing, you're almost stagnant.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah, you're not. You're not continuing to evolve.
So what we want you to do is think about yourself differently. Like, how much time do you spend doing the things you enjoy versus doing what you don't really like? You may be a math wizard, but that doesn't mean you want to be a financial planner. It might not be the right job for you. So if you had to do a budget once a month for a couple hours in your job, you would be okay. But if you had to do it, do budgeting 6 out of 8 hours a day, it wouldn't be okay. Because you're good at math doesn't mean you have to do a job that requires a lot of math. It's the 80-20 rule. So you think about the answers in the previous slide and how you would answer those. And then, figure out what your strengths are. What skills do you possess that you do like doing? What are your hobbies? What are your recent accomplishments that you really wouldn't have thought about? But if you really did something that was a lot of fun, maybe that equates to an adjacency to a job. I mean, you don't know until you start thinking about yourself differently. So what we want you to do here is pause the video again and take your time and think about those strengths and what the skills and all these things that are on here. And we have another homework that's going to come up later with a little bit more about this that you can do after the video. But at any time during these videos, you can pause them and think about who you are, what the questions are that we want you to answer, and all that jazz. It's a video. Stop it and take stock. So, and this is, some of the same things that we've been talking about, because it really is important. And I don't want to, kill the horse, whatever, or beat the horse to death, but you do what you think. So when you change your thoughts, it changes your actions, it changes your results, and it changes your life. You really do what you think. Everybody's heard the thing about you're learning how to drive, and it's like, don't, and you've got cones in a parking lot. Don't hit the cone. Don't hit the cone. What happens? You're trying not to hit the cone. You're so focused on the cone. What do you think you do? You hit the cone.
Yeah.
It's the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
We don't want you to hit the cone.
Yeah. It's focusing on what you don't want.
Yeah. So if you focus on what you do want, you might actually get it. Your thoughts guide your actions. If you didn't do well in your last role, that doesn't mean you won't do well in any role in that organization or any role called X. It just means that one may not have been right for you. Sometimes it's good person, wrong job.
And, it's your thinking, our thoughts are really what's key here. what kind of thoughts what are you telling yourself, about you? What are you feeding yourself good, nutritional, healthy thoughts, or are they more, like junk food? You know, what are what goes through your mind that that you're that's helping you to kind of shape the direction you're going in life. And one of my favorite books on this topic is by Dr. Joe Dispenza. He It's called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, and he talks about neuro. This is getting into neuroscience, but how when we change our thinking, change our beliefs, change our, even learning something new, doing something a different way, stepping out of your comfort zone, it shows up in the brain. Different neurosensors start to become activated and fire. So, but when we continue to do the same thing over and over and over, think the same thoughts, have the same, um, you know, we get the same thing, recreate the same old
Mhm.
things in life. Um, there's nothing stimulating the brain. There's nothing new to come in and change anything. So, it really does make sense that when we do the same thing over and over and over, we're going to get the same thing. So, it's really your thoughts are they drive everything, and it's what's key here. So pay attention to what your thinking is. I
Yeah.
think for me, when I first started doing this years and years and years ago, I was surprised at some of my self-talk and what I would tell myself. And when I took control of that, and it's hard to do because it's like it's very habitual, and our habits are so hard to change.
They are more hardwired than we believe, than we
Yeah,
think sometimes. Yes.
yeah, but and that's why I like the name of this book, Break the Habit of Being Yourself. It's perfect. So anyway, great book.
Yep.
So, and neuroscience informs us, like we were saying, that when we transform our thoughts, consciously make new choices, and develop new behavior patterns, physical changes can be observed and measured in the brain. And I think that is so cool. To me, that is fascinating.
So, same thing, break the pattern to reclaim your power. When you break the pattern of being yourself and change your thoughts, which in turn changes your life, new things are possible. And we've already told you some of our stories, so we probably don't have to do that again.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think well, actually, I can't really think of an example well, actually, I do have one. Yeah, let me just um, share this, because it was fascinating. This was not me. This was another coach who had a client who challenged. She was looking for a new job, and she wanted to play it very safe about how she approached her job search. She didn't want to try anything new,
Hmm.
and I don't remember all the details, but she really did need to make some, changes in her approach, the way she went about it. And so one of the things I think, actually, I remember one of the big things was she didn't want to tell anybody she was looking for a job. That's not uncommon, when people, I mean, it's logically, it's one of the things that you should tell everybody.
Well, except people at your job, because you don't want to
Right.
get
Well, you don't want to
let
tell your
go when
boss.
you're not
Yeah.
ready. Right. But other than that,
But as part of networking, you want to tap
yes.
into your network and utilize them. But she needed to expand her network. So one of the things he challenged her to do was approach a stranger and tell a
Hmm.
stranger that she was looking for a job. Here's what I do, basically
Wow.
give her elevator pitch. And she did that on the subway. And it led to something, I don't remember what, but it was so, um, I guess, really revolutionary that she was catapulted into a new level. It got her over that hurdle that she needed to get over. So, and it was like something monumental, but it was just taking a little step that produced these big results.
Stepping out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, yeah. So you don't have to do anything huge. I mean, maybe approaching a stranger on the subway and telling them you're looking for a job is feels huge, but when you think about it, it really isn't,
No,
it's not that big. Big would
correct.
be telling your your boss, I think, before it's time.
Yeah, that might be a little bit of a problem.
That's too much. I wouldn't recommend that.
No. So going along with the theme of today, we do have homework for you. And this was available on the same page where you picked up this video. And if you can't get it, we've got it out on our resource documents also on our website, so you can pull that off. And if you really have a problem, you can email us at coaching@jobgreatness.com and we will send it to you. But anyway, this is a really good exercise when you can't see the forest through the trees. There are a bunch of blocks with different questions. Maybe something that you accomplished as a kid, one of your favorite hobbies, name 3 things. So there's all these questions, and you put 3 answers down for each one, and then you list what the possible strength was for that particular thing. So it makes you think about yourself differently, because that's the rule of the game, thinking about yourself differently, so that you find those hidden strengths and hidden skills that you never thought about, but you actually enjoy doing. And maybe that is the thing that changed. This is the type of job that you really want to look for. It's just thinking about yourself differently is the theme. That's how to
Yeah.
move yourself forward.
And these questions here are very thought provoking, and they force you to look internally to see,
Yeah. Like,
like,
what do you like about yourself? What do you enjoy doing? What knowledge and life experience makes you unique? And these are some things that you actually might want to talk about in one of your stories during an interview.
right. Yeah. And, like this one right in the middle, when do you lose your sense of time and get into the flow? I mean, that's, we all have that. We have times when the clock seems like it's not even moving, and other times where it's like you can't believe how much time has passed.
Yeah.
So,
That's true.
and I guess they're both important there.
Yeah, absolutely. This one is a little uncomfortable to do. And I have given it to almost all of my clients that are more self-conscious than they should be, or a little bit more down on themselves. But it's a very, very good thing to do for anyone, because you will get a different perspective. So you ask at least 2 people to tell you 1 or 2 things that inspire them about you. And you can't do it by text or email, because I want it to, you actually have to hear the person's voice. So it's got to be phone call or in person. And it is an odd question to ask. So, I call a friend, and you can't just do family members. You can do 1 family member, but then 1 friend or someone else that's non-family. And when you ask them, say, I have this homework assignment, because you don't want them to just think that you're fishing for compliments, although that might be okay too. But you seriously say, I need you to tell me 1 or 2 things that inspire you about me. And I was really uncomfortable with doing this. And when I finally did it to a friend of mine, the answer I got almost overwhelmed me, because your friends or family or significant, just other people think about you differently than you think about yourself. And they might have perspectives about you that they've never shared. you know, like how you deal with people, your empathy, your this, your that, whatever it happens to be. But you might not have ever heard that from anybody before. And that is a very interesting thing to find out about yourself, because that is also, once you think about what they've said, there might be a story to use on an interview or something else about that too, or you might equate it to something else that's happened on a job that you would never have thought about. Might be a quality of you that you just never tapped into enough because you didn't think about it. And now somebody's brought it to the forefront and you might.
Yeah, and this is really asking you to step out of your comfort zone.
Totally.
It's scary for people, and it's just a very scary exercise, but it's one of those exercises that can, you know, just where you can, I don't know, evolve or really just kind of expand your horizons in a lot of ways. It can be very eye-opening.
Yes, but it is uncomfortable. I'll give you that.
Yeah, yeah.
Do it anyway.
Yeah. Terry said so.
Yep. So obviously, if you have any questions, you can get to us at coaching@jobgreatness.com, or go back on the website and there's a contact form, and we'd love to chat with you. Or, you know, if you have any questions about any of the videos or anything else. We've alluded to other videos in this one. The interview video, because obviously if you realize you're having job dissatisfaction, the next thing might be either how do I get unstuck to move forward a little bit, or what do I do now that I have a job, and job interview. And we've got a video on that too. Resume help. We've got all kinds of documents that are out on the website for resources if you want to, you know, kind of peruse that stuff too. So we would love to help you in any way we can. And we're going to tell you
just
about
let
the
us hear from you.
Yep.
Coaching@jobgreatness.com.
So now the next one is our job dissatisfaction workshop part 2.
So we hope to see you there. We'll
Next
go
slide,
into
Tom.
more details about what next steps look like for you.
You'll have their skills from this one, and we're going to tell you what to do with them.
So we hope to see you there.
Yeah, we'll give you some 5 stages of a career transition and some information about your elevator speech, which we've talked about here too. And thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having us into your home. And we hope to see you at the part 2.